What's up, everybody? Thanks for hanging out with us. We know it is a tough one today, but we'll get through it together, that's for sure. Rob Ellis, Dgunn, hanging out with you on this Monday after the Eagles lose Super Bowl 57, 38-35 to the Chiefs in a game where they led 24-14 at the half, that's for sure. All right, so Derek, let's look at this thing. I'll just reel the names off for you, and it's a who's who in a lot of ways. Some really big contributors to this team that are all going to be free agents, or are now, for lack of a better word. James Bradbury, cornerback.
Yep.
Safety, Chauncey Gardner Johnson.
Yep.
Linebacker, TJ Edwards.
Yep.
Defensive tackle, Fletcher Cox.
Yep.
Safety, Marcus Epps. Yeah. Defensive tackle, Javon Hargrave. Defensive tackle, Linval Joseph. Defensive tackle, Namdekhan Suh. Linebacker, Kaiser White. Defensive end, Brandon Graham.
Jeez.
Defensive end, Robert Quinn. Running back, Miles Sanders. Running back, Boston Scott. Offensive lineman, Isaac Seumalo. Offensive lineman, Andre Dillard. Quarterback, Gardner Minshew.
Make it stop.
One more, Zach Pascal. I'm sure I'm missing one or two, but you got the gist of this thing. I mean, that's some pretty big names, right? So that's everybody who's up.
8, 10, 12,
now, if I'm prioritizing this thing.
That's 17 players, Rob.
and all right, let's count it off. Let's go starters. Bradbury starter.
Yep.
You keep the tally here. Bradbury starter.
Yep.
Gardner Johnson starter. TJ Edwards starter. Fletcher Cox starter. Marcus Epps starter. Javon Hargrave starter. I won't count Joseph or Suh. We won't count them.
Right.
Kaiser White starter. Miles
White,
Sanders starter.
Yep.
Isaac Seumalo starter. I'll say Brandon Graham as a starter. I'll just say he's a starter. That'll be it. How many is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's a lot. Okay.
9 out of 17 are starters.
Whoa. All right. So more than half. Okay. More than half are starters. So if I'm prioritizing, Derek, I'll start on the defensive side of the ball. Okay. I think I'm going Gardner Johnson first because he is such a playmaker in terms of interceptions. He will hit you. He's versatile in that he could play safety. You can throw him in the slot. He can do a lot of different things for you, and he's really young.
I agree with you 100%. That is where my priority lies. When I look at all 17 of these dudes, that is where my priority lies. We talked about how porous the Eagles' tackling had been for much of the season, but the one constant, and he missed some quality time with that lacerated kidney. That dude comes up and stick you. He's not a big dude, but he comes up and hits you, man. He laid the lumber on Pacheco on that one hit, shook him up. Pacheco came back in the game and ran with even more fury after that. But he laid the lumber, and he had a couple of nice hits in that game. He's very quick. I think the back end of your defense is very sound with him. Even if you went single high safety, he's got the speed to go sideline to sideline in a hurry. Anytime you play single high safety, you got to have a safety that can cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. Right. He's that dude. And if there is such a thing as a sure tackler on that defense, it would be him, especially in the back end of that defense. So, yes, I definitely start with him as my number one priority.
Now, number two, I would probably look at Bradbury, but here's the issue. You're already paying Slay a lot.
Yep.
I just don't know that you can afford to pay both corners that kind of coin. I would love to see him come back. If I'm just giving you like priorities, I go Bradbury next, but I think it's likely he walks. I get past that on the defensive side of the ball. I might go Hargrave.
Bradbury's my number two. But the problem with Bradbury is if you pay CJ, can you afford to tie that much money into two corners and a safety?
No.
I don't think you can.
No.
And I think the Eagles would have to use, if Bradbury walks, if you keep CJ and Bradbury walks, then that tells me that that number 10 overall pick, they may look at a corner.
I agree.
Sauce Gardner, who comes out.
Yep. Yep.
You find somebody close to a Sauce Gardner, even though he's going to go through his growing pains, that takes care of your problem on that side opposite Slay.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, if push came to shove, and I don't know what the dead cap hit it would be. I don't see the numbers right now. Yeah. I would let Slay go and keep Bradbury, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd have to dive into what his contract looks like, if that's the case, because Hargrave had a better year. If you just look at the whole thing, Slay started off better, but by far over they ended up playing 20 games with the playoffs.
Yep.
Bradbury was better. And I know it's ironic we're saying that on a day where he had the holding call and all that, but he was better. Right. I would agree. Now, the problem that you have too is, and I know everybody thinks Nakobe Dean can step right in there. I don't know that, first of all.
We don't know that.
Yeah. But, you're losing Kaiser White, who, let's face it, probably didn't have a great year, Derek. He's another one who started off well and kind of, was not as impactful. Let's put it that way. And TJ Edwards, you're going to be short linebackers here too.
Yeah. My number 3 priority is TJ Edwards. Now, he had a bad game yesterday, but like I said, I watched this kid play 4 years at Wisconsin. I've watched him play during his short tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles. What he lacks in terms of lateral speed, he makes up for in smarts and tenacity. You need a brain trust mechanism in the middle of that defense to see things, decipher things, and get your people in position. TJ can do all that. Now, he's a liability in coverage, but he does everything else well. And you're either going to have to draft one or you're going to have to bring in another low-level linebacker. And let's face it, the Eagles don't like to spend a lot of money on linebackers, and plus you're already paying Hassan Reddick 40-something million. So are you going to put another 40-something million into TJ? I don't think so. But if I had my way, if I'm in Howie Roseman's chair, I do everything I can possible to bring TJ back. Now, taking into consideration, I'm 50-50 right now. TJ, who flourished in this porous Jonathan Gannon system, may not do so well if a new coordinator comes in here. We all know there are a lot of players across the league who are system players. We see them play for one coordinator, lights out. They can't play for another coordinator who takes over, or they go to another team and don't do half the damage that they did under the predecessor. Don't know with TJ. And as I sit here, I'll say it again. I think Gannon may have cost himself the job in Arizona. If Arizona hires Gannon, they get exactly what they deserve. They hired Cliff Kingsbury when they shouldn't have. You go out and hire Gannon right now, you get exactly what you deserve. Because think about it. For the most part, all the good offensive coordinators, D coordinators are already snapped up by other teams. Look at all the movement that took place among position coaches during the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So all the better ones are gone. So who are you bringing in? Who are you going to help fill out your roster? I mean, I know you got buddies out there somewhere, but who are you bringing in with any kind of pedigree to help you out?
Yeah, agreed.
But if I could, I'd keep TJ as my number 3 priority, to be honest. Now, you said Hargrave.
I said Hargrave because, look, I think it's likely that Sue, Joseph are gone and Fletcher's gone. If those guys are all gone, I'm left with Milton Williams and Jordan Davis. I don't know about Jordan Davis, and I like Milton Williams, but I don't love Milton Williams, and I don't know what he's going to look like being an every down defensive tackle. Hargrave, and I know he wasn't, great either in this game. We could apply that to almost anybody on the defensive side, but the guy had double-digit sacks, and looks like he, plays well in this system. I don't know what he's going to cost. Like, he might get blown away somewhere on the open market. If that's the case, then I'm out. But if he doesn't, I'd like to have him back, man. He's still a really good player.
There's no question about it. You need somebody that can get consistent push in the middle of a defense in the trenches. He was that guy, more so than Fletcher Cox. Javon Hargrave is that guy. But you're right, Rob. He had a great career when he was in Pittsburgh. He's had a great career in Philadelphia. Somebody needs a D tackle like that, man. There are a lot of teams out there. When you look at the poorest teams out there, there's a lot of teams out there with good cap space that can make a lot of things happen in terms of dangling carrots in front of some of these players. And unfortunately for the Eagles right now, as we sit here, their cap space is not that good. Now,
Yeah.
how he's going to free up some money based on the fact that 17 players is going to help you free up some money. But what are you going to do? Are you going to keep what you already have in stock? Or are you going to go outside the box and get somebody else in without knowing if they're going to fit in this system, especially if you bring a new defensive coordinator in here, if Gannon gets that Arizona job. But Javon Hargrave is right there in terms of a player that I feel that this team needs to find a way to keep in the fold. Can they financially? I don't know, man. The other player who I wish they could keep, but I think he's really a up-and-coming riser, is Marcus Epps.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcus Epps can play. You know, now he got exposed in this one game, and Marcus Epps can play, and Marcus Epps can hit. You know, finding a safety that can run and hit is a rare combination in today's NFL game. He can do both. Mm-hmm. Younger player, not a household name across the league, but enough to generate interest from teams. You know, who's to say Marcus Epps wouldn't go down to a Houston and get a boatload of money to play in DeMeco Ryans' system?
Yeah, he might. He might. It wouldn't surprise me. No, you're right about all of those, Derek. I'll take the one that's a little bit tricky for me is Sayamalo. This guy's a starting, guard in the NFL and has done a nice job. And there's a nice cohesion with that entire unit that they all have together. But is somebody going to pay? And I know Big V was a tackle, so it was a little bit different. But are they going to throw crazy money at him for some team that's desperate for offensive line play? If that's the case, he's out of here. If not, I think you could bring him back, and I think it would behoove him, to come back. It would make sense for him because he's with a great offensive line coach. He's with a bunch of players who just make you better just by being around them.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a guy right now that I want to plug in at the guard spot that I feel good about that's on the roster.
Well, here's what I'd say. Jeff Stoutland does such a great job of cross-training offensive linemen that he will find the perfect guard complement. Even again, if Kelsey is down, you still have 3/5 of your starting offensive line. Cam Jurgens will take over the center position. I feel good about Cam Jurgens stepping in there. We saw him play sporadically, and he's down the field like Kelsey making blocks, shedding one block and getting to the next level. I feel good about where Cam Jurgens is. So now you got to find that right guard. We may not know it right now, but there may be somebody in-house who they feel really good about in terms of picking up that position. That's the one spot. That's the one spot that I put when I look at all the names that you mentioned out there. He would be like number 15 on my list of priorities.
Wow, that low.
Yeah, he would be like number 15 on my list of maybe 14. I think Robert Quinn is out of here. I think Miles Sanders is out of here. So that's 2.
I would agree.
Pascal's
out of here.
I think Pascal, they may be able to get him at a bargain price, though. I think he serves the slot receiver well. They didn't utilize him as much. Number one, he's a good blocker, and you got to have a good blocker in that slot. You got to have a good blocker. I don't think he'll garner big money. As Nick Sirianni's boy, if he's really thinking about this, and you look around this offense, we got another chance to put up some incredible numbers and do some damage next year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that with the next team I go to. Is it all about the last dollar I can get, or is it about putting my position to get recognized on an offense that's going to be recognized and get a lot of high-profile games nationally next year? I think they can get him at a decent price. You're right. He might be gone, but he's not going to hit you. He's not going to hurt you financially like some of these other guys.
Let me throw another lock that's gone. Andre Dillard. He's out of here.
I think Dillard's
he's out. He'll go start somewhere, and I think he'll play well. He'll go start somewhere else.
I think the Eagles' frustration with Dillard has reached the mountaintop. He never really panned out. He had the emotional issues. He was homesick for a while. He can't stay healthy. When you think about it, when Landon Dickerson was out, Dillard wasn't the first choice to put in. Now, later in the season, he got to play that left guard position, but he wasn't their first option to put in there. And I think from what I know in terms of talking to people about him, they would be happy to see him go. I shouldn't say happy to see him go, but if he goes, I don't think they lose any sleep over it, to be honest with you. So I don't think he's a high priority also. You put him on that list.
Yeah, like also. I think if he were to come back at some crazy low number, okay, maybe. But he's not like somebody. I think a team would actually be smart who needs offensive line help to grab him up, because you can probably, get him in there at a decent number. And he's got a little bit of versatility now, Derek, in that they've thrown him in that guard spot occasionally.
Yep.
I guess he's willing to accept it, like he wasn't willing to accept the right side. I don't know. But anyway, I think he's out. Like if I had to go through like goners, I would say Dillard. Another one that's kind of up in the air is Minshew. I don't think anybody's going to give him a starting gig, so he might come back. I don't know. But
would a team give him a starting gig, but make it very clear to him as a placeholder?
Like
when our number one,
like that.
Yes. Yeah. When our number one quarterback is up to speed, you have to understand you're going to be the backup. You have to understand that. But
because
you're right.
You could probably get a little bit more money out of whatever team that way. If you know what I mean, it might. It's probably a smart little play for him.
Yep.
If they said in let's say the Colts or the Houston Texans said, hey, listen, here's the deal. We're drafting somebody, but we don't want to throw him to the wolves. You're going to be the starter. It could be all year, but it could be week 8 or 9, and you're sitting down. We need you to be cool with that. Are you cool with that? We'll duke you a little bit more money here if that's the case. And he might jump at that. So I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he comes back here because he feels he fits in the system. But it's hard for a competitor to accept the fact that you're coming back here and your playing time will be slim and none unless the starting quarterback gets hurt. Everybody wants to play. And we've heard Minshew say he feels he could be a starter in the National Football League. Well, when you look at the options out there, there's not many open jobs right now. There's not many job wanted signs hanging up for a starting quarterback. Like you said, you look at a team like Houston, they're in a transition year. The Jets are not looking for a Gardner Minshew. The Jets are looking for a quarterback. Now, Jets are looking for a quarterback that can get them over the top with the personnel they have now. This team is ready to make that next move in terms of being a legitimate, respected playoff entity. All they need is a quarterback. Minshew's not the guy for the job with the Jets.
No, I would agree with you. So I would look at it this way, Derek. I think Boston Scott's out of here. I think Robert Quinn is a lock to be out of here.
You think Scott's a lock to be out of here?
No. Robert Quinn is a lock to be out of here.
Yes.
I think Miles Sanders is out of here.
Yeah.
And I think Boston Scott comes back, actually. I think they'll be able to find a happy medium with him, and he'll be back here.
Yeah.
He's in a good place here with the way he's utilized. He's not an every down back. No. But they're not afraid to give him some touches and, in big spots, goal line, and he's a tough runner. He'll return kicks for you. I think he's very valuable. He's the kind of guy you don't want to lose. He's a nice, Swiss Army knife kind of guy.
And he doesn't turn the ball over.
He doesn't. Yeah. He's got a great attitude and the whole nine. So I would like to see him back. Look, there's two meatballs hanging out here, man, that are just major questions. And one's a free agent and one isn't. But what's the future of Jason Kelce and what's the future of Brandon Graham? Let's start with Kelce. Very obviously, it's an emotional game because he's got his brother, the whole thing with the brother. He stuck around on the field longer than any Eagle last night, Derek.
Yeah.
Part of that was just talking to Travis and his mom. I think his dad was there too. But part of it was just that. But the other part makes you wonder, like, even Travis welled up when he was talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
They asked Travis about it, and he started getting emotional. I'm thinking, does he know something we don't know?
Yeah.
That could go really either way, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you 100%. Kelce spent the last 3 seasons leaking it to the media that he had contemplated retirement. I think if they had won this game, it would have been a slam dunk. He's out of here. I think now the decision will be a little bit more emotionally tugging, but I think having 2 small kids, just had a second kid recently. Wait, did his wife give birth?
No, he's due. They're due any day with their third.
Okay. Oh, the third. Okay. Because she was at the Super Bowl. They had this contingency plan if she went into labor, out in Arizona. Okay. So he's going to have 3 small kids. He's made his money. He's got a ring. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. What else is there left for him? He's what, 34, 35 now?
Yes.
34.
Yeah.
What else is there left for him? I think he'll sit back and think this thing through, and he'll come to the realization, do I want to put my mind and my body through this again with 3 small kids and my wife needing more help around the house? We're set financially for life.
Yep.
You know, I have nothing else to give. And let's face it, so many guys, especially linemen, talk about getting out of the game sooner rather than later because of a quality of life. The fear factor with this CTE and all this head trauma stuff, you know, you don't want to be in your 40s and can't play with your kids. And we were talking about the kid last week, one of the guys filing the lawsuit against the NFL because one of the 10 former players, and he was talking about how he blacks out at times, and when he comes to, there's holes in his walls, his hand is bloody, and his wife and his kids are huddled up crying, and he doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah.
And we've seen stories like that sporadically about players blacking out and doing violent things in their homes, scaring the you know what out of the family members, and not remembering what happened.
Right.
And I think especially linemen, because every play is a head collision, that these guys seriously think about this. And Kelsey has done everything you can ask. I mean, he went from a guy who people wanted to run out of here to a future Pro Bowl center in the National Football League. And he's highly decorated. What else? If he stood out there longer than any other Eagle, that tells me he right now is leaning towards retirement.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the smartest thing, and he does this every year, is he says, I just got to get away from it. I'm too emotional right now.
Yeah.
I need to give myself a little bit of time, and then he figures it out. So, you know, again, up in the air. Now, the other one, there's no question he wants to keep playing. The question is, you know, are the Bucs going to talk if somebody else takes a run at him? I feel like pretty good that Brandon Graham's back here with this team. You have a very good relationship with him. I know that. What's your sense?
I believe that he will give them the epitome of the family discount. It's not about money with Brandon. Brandon has looked at the contracts he's been given by this Philadelphia Eagles organization. He's secure in himself financially. He's a great family man. He doesn't want to uproot his family and move anywhere else. He has a beautiful home in Jersey. I think Brandon Graham comes back here. And because he's exactly the type of guy in the locker room that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie want. He is the epitome of what a leader should be, both on and off the field. He is a great community guy.
Yeah.
And in his present role, playing 38% of the snaps, the Eagles could live with that, you know, and he could live with that.
And it worked well for him, Derek.
It worked well.
Yeah.
First time ever in his career, he had double-digit sacks.
Yep.
He told us back in May when we got him on this show that if my role's reduced, I'm fine with that. If we get to where we want to go, I'm fine with that. So he's already secure in who he is and where he is in this organization. He wants to finish his career desperately with this team. And the fact that the Eagles have kept him this long, a defensive edge rusher this long, tells you what they think of Brandon Graham, not just as a football player, but as a person to the organization. I think Howie will do everything possible to not cheat him out of money, but to pay him at a bargain basement price with incentives. I think his deal might be loaded with incentives.
Yeah.
To get him to stay here.
I agree. Look, this is just one of a million things that Brandon Graham does, but Fox, during their pregame yesterday, they did a piece on it was Tom Rinaldi, I think, did a piece on Brandon, who befriended a young man who's got Down syndrome and had congestive heart failure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Brandon, every couple months, would reach out to him, you know, FaceTime with him, encourage him. And he went into like cardiac arrest, had to have open heart, the whole thing. It was a really, but the father and mother said flat out, if not for Brandon Graham, he probably wouldn't be here. Like this guy encouraged him so much and kept his spirits up that allowed him to rehab and all this other stuff. Anyway, but I just use that as an example. There's a million of those with Brandon Graham. I think the organization knows what he means to the city, how important he is, and he can still play. So it would make sense on a lot of levels. And you make a great point. Give him a low base, and hey, you get 8-9 sacks, boom. You know, you're gonna be there with the big boys here. So yeah, I think he's back. Kelsey, I think, is entirely up to him. Obviously, if I had to guess, I think it's probably more towards he walks than he comes back. But that
I
could
agree.
change.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
So the point is, there's a lot of decisions, and there's a lot of guys who aren't going to be here. It's just the way. It's the nature of the beast.
The biggest caveat for Kelsey has to be, I look at what we have coming back on offense. We're in good shape. If I come back, I'll play with a minimum of three other starters on this offensive line. We're set at tackles. We're set at left guard. We get a right guard. It may be somebody already in-house that we don't even know about.
Right.
I look at the offensive weapons we have. I look who's under center calling the shots. We're in a really good place in terms of being a very potent offense. I think if this was an offense that was at the bottom of the league in terms of production, it would make his decision a lot easier. But because of the prospects of what this offense could do again, and the fact that the NFC is down, and I'm sure either him or his representation have already looked at that. Hey, we got another chance to get back to a Super Bowl or go deep into the playoffs.
Yep. If
he comes back, the last thing on his list of priorities is the money. He came back in a one-year deal for this year for $14 million. I don't think he's worried one iota about the money. It's about his quality of life and where are we as a team right now.
Yep. And he said he's on record saying this is the most fun he's had as a player this year. He had a good time. And and not going, for the most part, he stayed as healthy as he could. Remember, he had the elbow cleaned out early. That the elbow felt as good as it felt since he was in college. So he was relatively, they're all beat up this time of year, but he's relatively healthy. So all those kind of things.
Absolutely.
Play in the favor of him coming back. All right, let's get a timeout in here, Gunner, and when we'll come back, we'll look at the offense a little bit and some of the things that went down last night. Now, in the 2:00 segment, we'll talk about Steichen and Gannon, the possibility of them leaving. How we've had 3 Philadelphia teams: Union, the Phillies, and now the Eagles getting to finals and not being able to bring it home. We'll look at the national anthem with Chris Stapleton, the halftime performance with Rihanna. We'll get into all those kind of things coming up in a little bit. You don't want to go anywhere. He's Dgunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network, hanging out with you on this Monday. We'll get through it, folks. We will get through it. All right, let's talk about Flynn Tree Services. Flynn Tree Services is an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face, and they're just a quick phone call away. They are experts at trimming all types of trees, and they serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. They specialize in tree removal, stump grinding, as well as tree pruning. Now, keep in mind, we're in the time of year where it's great to get your trees evaluated before the real last nasty kind of push of bad weather comes upon us. You don't want those trees falling. You don't want the branches coming down. Go to their Facebook or Instagram page for a sampling of their work or more information. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's flynntreeservices.com.